This is Doug Green, and I'm the publisher of Telecom Reseller. And I'm very pleased to have with us today Blair Pleasant. Blair, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks, Doug. Good to be here.
I'm glad to see you again. And we also have with us Anna Baker of Enreach. Anna, thank you for joining me today.
Hi, Doug. Thank you for hosting us.
Well, we're going to be talking about one of my favorite topics, actually, two of my favorite topics, automation and AI. And we're going to be talking specifically about a new white paper that just came out a couple of weeks ago, The Emergence of Automation. And we're going to be sort of diving into this topic. What I like about what we're going to be talking about this morning is, everybody, literally everybody is talking about AI and automation nonstop. Here we're going to be talking about it in a practical manner. We're going to talk about how it actually can be applied in the field for contact centers and other applications as well. So before we dive into that, Anna, I think our readers and listeners and so on see Enreach all the time, but tell us briefly what your company does.
Okay. Yeah. So Enreach is a unified communication provider in Europe. We're one of the biggest players there, and we provide our communication services on the one hand through partners to the smaller and medium businesses, and on the other hand, we also have integrated communication solutions for Salesforce or for Microsoft, which we provide to the bigger companies. And my team, as part of Enreach, we focus on the AI part. So we've built a conversational AI platform, which we're probably going to talk about a bit today.
And the idea basically that you guys have been talking about for a while is actually using AI, making it work for companies, for applications and so on. Am I right about that?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the thing we discussed with Blair is we showed some cases in which we use AI to fully automate certain conversations. I think one of the examples in the white paper is about a taxi company. You can imagine how narrow these conversations typically are about people ordering taxis and how AI can really help smoothen that process or even completely automate that process.
So, staying with that for a second and maybe before and after, how do businesses perceive AI? Is it still an unknown or is it becoming more known?
I think it's becoming more known. I mean, if you open LinkedIn, you can't get away from AI, and most people have played with things like ChatGPT. So in that sense, it's known. I think the thing that is still unknown is what AI can do once you connect it to the data of your company. So where in ChatGPT, if you chat with it, you can ask general questions. But once you connect it to the data of your company, you can ask really specific questions and get specific answers. I think this is where you now see a lot of applications, is pulling that generic AI, conversational AI functionality into the company space and connect it with the company's data.
So Blair, in starting to work on this, how has the digital world of social media, smartphones and apps impacted customer service?
Yeah, basically, customers want to be able to interact with companies and brands, how they want and when they want. They don't want to have to go through multiple IVR menus before they can reach an agent or get the information that they want. And more people are using tools like WhatsApp or Facebook Messenger for, all types of things. And they expect to be able to use those channels for customer service as well now. And mainly, people want to be able to get service, when they need it, how they need it, not just during business hours. And they're really tired of, the IVR, and they want more intuitive ways of interacting with organizations. And one thing is that, we're finding the use of, social media and apps and, all these other things, it's going across demographics, and generations. People think, oh, WhatsApp is just for 20 somethings or 30 somethings, but it's not. And so one thing I found is that regardless of age or whatever demographic, people want to use these tools, and they are using these tools.
And staying with that for just a second, those tools are not just communication tools. They're emerging as basically a marketplace. They're the shopping mall. They're the place, especially in many parts of the world, where people transact everything from a haircut to buying a pair of shoes.
Exactly. Yeah, and so people are used to using these tools and these apps, so why shouldn't they be using it for customer service as well?
And so, businesses need to really think about this. They need to make that a part of their culture and not just something that's onto the side. Am I right about that?
Oh, absolutely. And we're definitely starting to see it. What used to be something, kind of separate is now becoming part of organizations' workflows and really the way that they do business.
So, Anna, in customer engagement settings, how do you determine which processes are better suited for automation and which should be handled by live agents, which should be handled by live agents or maybe a machine?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's all to do with whether customers allow these conversations to be automated. So if you're doing a really goal-oriented conversation and it's short, you typically allow, they typically won't mind an automated process. And also from the other side, having short and narrow conversations are a lot easier to automate. And as the conversation gets longer, we see AI struggle with keeping a consistent conversation, and we'd rather have a human in the loop and an agent taking the conversation while the AI is supporting the agent in that conversation.
Now, did I hear you say the word frustrate?
Yeah, I think there still is a lot of frustration. I think there's frustration with the fact that customers just want to get to an agent as quick as possible. On the other hand, they're in the queue. There's many other customers trying to get to the agent. And our role is to make sure that those conversations that can be automated, that can be routed more efficiently, are routed more efficiently so that we free up time for those lengthier conversations that do need agents. Go
This
ahead.
sounds like it's a complicated thing. In other words, we have to make a number of important decisions if you're a company in applications about which calls go where.
Yeah, typically it starts with kind of a routing. We ask people their intent, why people are calling or why people are reaching out. And based on that, we make a decision whether to see if we can help them by a self-service, an automated service, or whether we directly route to an agent. Um, because certain conversation that doesn't make sense to try and automate, you only frustrate.
So let's stick with this frustration thing because I think, by the time someone's actually contacting a contact center, they're pretty frustrated sometimes. And so, Anna, Blair, I need to ask, is AI sometimes seen as a cost reduction tool, and can that be a problem?
For some organizations, it is seen as a cost reduction tool, and down the road, I think more and more it will be. But I think right now, organizations are looking at it as a way to improve the service that they provide to customers. And, customers are demanding self-service. We know that. Again, across generations, across age groups, people want that self-service capability and to be able to, get what they need when they need it without having to, wait in queue for an agent. So whatever organizations can do to help enhance self-service is really seen as a benefit right now. And AI is really helping enhance those self-service capabilities, and it's also helping agents be more productive when customers do talk to the agents. So I think it is seen as a cost reduction, but I think a lot of organizations are really seeing it as a way to provide better self-service capabilities to customers, and then also to enhance the agent performance and the agent's ability to answer and resolve the customer's issue when the customer does talk to the agent. A lot of people talk about, being able to replace their agents and saving money that way. But right now, it's really about agent augmentation. It's not about replacing agents and saving money that way. It really is about giving the agents the tools that they need to be more effective and to provide better service to customers. So down the road, yeah, we're going to see, cost reductions based on reducing the number of agents. But right now, it's really about helping agents be more effective and helping customers get those self-service capabilities that they want.
Is it also about improving brand loyalty?
Oh, absolutely. If customers can get the information that they want, when they want it, how they want it, then that's definitely going to improve brand loyalty and customer loyalty. No doubt about that. But, you were talking about frustration before. If it's a frustrating experience to customers and they can't get the information, then that impacts customer loyalty negatively. So that's why having the right tools that can really assist agents and assist customers is so important.
So Blair, are consumers becoming more accepting of automated and self-service environments?
I'd say yes and no. Consumers really want to use self-service, and studies that I've done show that the large majority of customers will try self-service before reaching out to a contact center. But that being said, a lot of people get really frustrated with automated and self-service applications that can only answer, specific types of questions, and they don't always work as advertised. I think the first generation of chatbots really didn't work very well, and customers got, very frustrated. Frankly, personally, I hated using chatbots for the longest time because the experience was really bad. It didn't provide the right answers, and half the time it didn't understand the questions. It didn't know where I was coming from. And a lot of people just gave up and stopped using, this first generation. But I'd say in the past year or so, or maybe 2 years, the technology really has improved. And we have more conversational AI tools that do understand the questions and can provide better responses. And this is just going to keep getting better with generative AI that lets you ask questions in a more natural way and provide better responses that are easy to understand. So yes, it's been frustrating, but I think customers are becoming more accepting and will be as the technology keeps improving.
So, Anna, AI is usually perceived, I think, as a large enterprise solution. Is that correct? Can it be used with medium-sized companies or even smaller companies?
Yeah, I think the answer is yes and no. It's still a big topic. Integrating your data, integrating your systems with AI is a lot of work, and enterprises spend a lot of money on that. And that's something that is hard for smaller businesses to replicate. On the other hand, providers like ourselves have already pre-integrated AI into the core of communication, and which makes it a solution that is also achievable for those smaller players. Think about taking your IVR experience and upgrading it to a voice IVR, where instead of having to listen to the menu, you can just say, "I have a question about my invoice," and the IVR system routes you to the right department. And this is something that we've basically built out of the box as a turnkey solution now. And with these large language models, it's also a lot easier to train and model for your company. And so there are definitely solutions we see that are within reach for the smaller and medium businesses.
So, Blair, when you started working on this project to develop the white paper, were there what were some of the Enreach strategies that you found compelling?
Yeah, I love how Enreach focuses on use cases. Whenever I talk to vendors about AI or any technology, I always ask about use cases, but so many of them just focus on the technology, and how the technology works and not on how it's being used. And when I first started talking to Enreach, they told me how customers are using their technologies and the key use cases. They talked about the oldest taxi company in Amsterdam and how the Enreach technology helps them compete with more modern rideshare companies like, Uber and Lyft. They talked about how their technology is being used by restaurants and how it integrates with a restaurant reservation system to manage table reservations and make it easier for customers to book tables. They talked about in Spain, the Sevilla City Hall, and how they make it easier for citizens to get the information they need. So I really like this approach, and frankly wish more companies would focus on use cases and how the technology helps organizations rather than just focusing so much on the technology itself.
That's really interesting. I mean, you mentioned a bunch of organizations that are not necessarily small, though restaurants are usually not big. So that's a kind of a small company.
Yep.
But city governments are a good example of a kind that sort of medium range organization that has a lot of need, but maybe not a lot of capacity.
Yeah, so via partner, we got in contact with TCA, which is the oldest taxi company in Amsterdam. And they asked us to see if we could help them automate the nightly hours. So between 2 and 5, typically there's not a lot of people calling, but you still want to offer your service. And after talking to them, we found that perhaps voice automation wasn't the best way forward, because people may have gone to bars and maybe not talking in a way that our bots would be able to understand. And we figured a thing like WhatsApp might be a really nice solution. And the thing about WhatsApp is it's really easy to kind of share your location. It's really easy to get updates. So even if you've made your order, we can keep you updated about the status of your taxi and let you know when the taxi has arrived. And so that medium has a lot of advantages over a thing like voice. And I think that's also the crux. We're trying to look for convenience. So not so much take the highest tech technology, because we could do voice automation, but see what would provide the best experience for the end customer. And in this case, I think WhatsApp was a really nice a really nice match.
You know,
And if I can interject,
Blair,
what I really liked, yeah, what I really liked about that use case is, it was old an old taxi company, but with Enreach, it really got the tools to become, competitive with Uber and, some of these modern companies. So it really changed the whole business model for this company and really made them more competitive.
this is intriguing to me because this also, I mean, this company must be over 100 years old. It had probably practices and systems that went back decades and generations and so on. There must be so many businesses and industry after industry that are like this. And I'm wondering if you guys now sort of see that AI might be applied in some ways to these other places. That it, and I can't imagine that this is a big company that this happened with.
No, and the beauty, of course, is that even though it's a small company, there's lots of them, and they all have the same issue in a sense. So that makes it something that we can really invest in together with a partner to see if we can build solutions for this vertical. Yeah, like you also mentioned the restaurants by themselves. They're too small to build these solutions. But as an industry, I think they all have a problem that they're doing two things at the same time, trying to communicate while at the same time trying to serve their customer. And that's what you see a lot with these smaller businesses. And that's why this automation really helps.
So Anna, I'm really intrigued by the way that you're using AI to sort of reinvent legacy companies, perhaps in the future even reinventing whole sectors. So with this in mind, why was it important for Enreach to sponsor this white paper, The Emergence of Automation and AI for Customer Service?
Yeah, we feel that this technology trend is now really at a pivotal point where it starts to show value, not just for the enterprises, but it's also achievable for the smaller companies where I think they can really benefit from this technology. And as us providing our communication services to those smaller companies, we're in a really nice spot to help them with their communication challenges. Because, like I said, most of these smaller businesses they're serving their customer and they're having to communicate at the same time. Um, these AI services can really help them optimize their customer service, spreading the load, spreading. For instance, with the doctors we see, they get calls at 8 o'clock in the morning from 8 till 9, right? And they're never available. With AI, we can help them spread this load and schedule callbacks, for instance, during the day. Or yeah, I think the example of restaurants, and there's so many of them. We really wanted to reach out and get some feedback on what cases could really benefit from AI.
So Blair, you wrote in your report that 18 to 23%, so I think that's 1 in 5, 1 in 4 of all customer requests will come through conversational AI by the end of this year. So, what does that really mean? And could you give us further commentary on that?
Yeah, so with the rise of self-service that we talked about, customers more and more are, looking for these, self-service types of applications. So a lot of these customer service interactions are going to start with conversational AI. So they're not necessarily going to all be resolved by conversational AI, but with chatbots and with voice bots, um, customers are able or businesses are able to provide that customer service 24/7. Back to Anna's point, people want to be able to get that service at any time, and organizations need to be able to do that even if they're small businesses. So we are seeing things like conversational AI primarily used for chatbots, but also for messaging apps, like WhatsApp, which we talked about, and even for voice interactions instead of the touch tone IVR, which everybody hates. Um, so because customers do want to use self-service to get the information, from whatever device they're using, whatever app they're using. So being able to interact with a chatbot or an app using conversational AI lets customers get the information or do the transaction that they want to do without having to wait for an agent. So I do see a lot of interactions starting in self-service with conversational AI, but not all of them are going to be resolved, and they still need to go to a live agent in some cases. So that's why it's really important to be able to have that handoff from automation to an agent.
Blair, you just said something I think very significant that we should talk about just for a second, and that is previous attempts at automation really weren't that very popular. I mean, to some extent, these things have become kind of hated, as you pointed out.
Yeah.
So, is AI being actually more welcome because maybe it's a better system?
Yeah, I think conversational AI really makes a difference, and being able to understand customer intent. Because it used to be, you would go into a chatbot and say, tell me about your problem. And 9 times out of 10, it didn't understand. But if it said, do you need help with sales or service or, something specific, then it was able to do a better job. But when it's just open ended and it doesn't really understand the customer intent, then it didn't really work, and customers just got really frustrated. But now with conversational AI, it and especially now with some of the generative AI technologies, it understands the intent and what the customer is trying to find better, and then it can also provide the information that the customers are looking for in a more conversational and intuitive type of way. So I think the technologies really are getting better, and I think the customer usage of them will increase, and the customer satisfaction with these technologies is increasing.
So, Anna, I want to bring into the picture here our friends, the channel partner and MSP community, and so on. When they're looking at this, and it sounds like that taxi cab company and a lot of other of your smaller customers came to you through a partner. Um, do they need special skills to do this, to bring that business in?
I think for the common use cases, like the smart building voice bots, for instance, that replace IVRs, um, that's typically a pretty simple. It starts out simple. I think the case with the taxi company where there's backend integrations, there is always a bit of technology involved. But we do provide trainings on how to do this with our platform, and we do provide support on that. Um, so I think for a reseller, there's lots of cases where they can resell the turnkey solutions, but for those more deeper integrated experiences, there is some knowledge required.
And let's in thinking about that, and thinking about also the sales process, is there a little bit of training needed to sort of recognize an opportunity? The customer in some cases, especially in these legacy industries, may not reach out and say, "Gee, I need an AI solution." So I'm thinking,
Yeah,
just
yeah.
how do you get the partner to think that way?
I think these days with all those use cases and all those examples coming via LinkedIn, it's more the other way around. We sometimes need to tone them down a bit because people
Oh,
see
okay.
solutions with AI everywhere, while sometimes it doesn't make sense. Like I said, sometimes it's easier and more convenient for the end customer to have a simple solution than a very sophisticated one. On the other hand, like I said, replacing IVRs with voice IVRs where it makes sense, where you have really big menus or where you have really big scope of intents. Their training does help on trying to model this correctly because it opens up a lot of possibilities. You don't want to recreate the original IVR, but then for voice. Typically, you want to make a smarter experience for end customers.
Well, I want to thank everybody for joining me today. This has been really interesting. I've been fascinated by the way that AI and automation is being applied to legacy industries and to interesting examples such as restaurants and taxi companies. And it sounds like there's more to come. This is an ongoing story. Blair, thank you for giving us just a taste about your white paper and so on. Blair, where can we find more about you and the work you do?
Sure. So you can go to www.comfusion.com and also bcstrategies.com. And I'm also on LinkedIn, and pretty much I'm easy to find.
All right. We'll make sure that there's a link on the description of this webcast also to your site as well. And Anna, where can we find the white paper and more information about Enreach?
Yeah, thank you, Doug, for the interview. If you go to enreach.com, I think the white paper will be one of the first pages in the hero section. So just click on it, leave your details, and download the white paper.
Great. Well, I recommend everyone to take a look, and I hope that we do a follow-up on this. I'm eager to find out what the next steps are in that taxi cab company and also some of these other industries as well. But for now, I want to thank both of you for joining me today.
Thanks, Doug.
Thanks, Doug. Cheers.